struggling artist painted a dying man's portrait, unaware it would be the inspiration behind her big break. The irony wasn't lost on Maya as she stared at the blank canvas before her, just as empty as her bank account and the gallery walls that had consistently rejected her work. The small apartment that doubled as her studio smelled of turpentine and yesterday's instant ramen. Outside, Seattle's persistent rain tapped against the windows, creating a melancholic soundtrack that matched her mood. 3 eviction notices were stacked on her kitchenette counter, each one more threatening than the last. Maya's fingers trembled slightly as she tucked a strand of unruly dark hair behind her ear. 28 years old, and what did she have to show for it? A collection of paintings no one wanted to buy, and a growing mountain of debt. Her phone buzzed with another text from her mother. "The accounting position is still open at Uncle Dave's firm." "Just saying." She didn't bother responding. They'd had this conversation too many times. Her art degree wasn't supposed to lead to this, surviving on coffee shop tips while her real passion collected dust in corners of her apartment. With a sigh that seemed to empty her lungs completely, Maya gathered her coat and portfolio. The community center downtown had offered her $50 to teach an afternoon art class for seniors. Not enough to make rent, but enough to perhaps buy groceries that didn't come with a flavor packet. The bus ride downtown was a blur of gray skies and grayer thoughts. Maya clutched her portfolio case, wondering if she should have included the abstract series she'd been working on, or if the landscapes would connect better with the seniors. Not that it mattered. Her recent work felt as disconnected as she did, technical but soulless, her professors would have said. The Powell Community Center was a brick building with surprisingly bright interiors. Yellow walls and numerous windows fought against the gloom of the Seattle afternoon. The receptionist, a cheerful woman with a nameplate reading Gloria, directed Maya to room 103. "You're the artist, right? Thank goodness you're here. We've been trying to find someone reliable for months." Maya nodded, not mentioning that she'd taken the gig out of desperation rather than reliability. Room 103 held 7 seniors, each stationed at small easels. They looked up with varying degrees of interest as Maya entered. "Everyone, this is Ms. Maya Reeves, our new art instructor," Gloria announced before whispering to Maya. "They're a good bunch. Except maybe Mr. Harrison in the corner. He can be challenging." Maya followed Gloria's gaze to an elderly man sitting somewhat apart from the others. Even from across the room, she could sense a certain intensity about him. Unlike the others who sat with rounded shoulders and tentative postures, he sat straight-backed, almost defiant. For 2 hours, Maya guided the seniors through basic composition techniques. Most were enthusiastic, if not particularly skilled. Mrs. Abernathy painted her cat from memory, all 5 renditions looking more like furry potatoes than felines. Mr. Jensen focused exclusively on boats, explaining that he'd been a sailor in his youth. And Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison sat silently, ignoring her instructions entirely, working on something Maya couldn't quite see from her vantage point. As the class ended and the seniors packed up their supplies, Maya finally approached him. "Mr. Harrison? I noticed you were working on your own project. Would you mind if I took a look?" He regarded her with pale blue eyes that retained a sharpness belying his age. His canvas revealed a half-finished scene, a lighthouse on a rocky shore, painted with surprising technical skill. "You didn't need my help," Maya said, genuinely impressed. "Nobody needs help learning to see," he replied, his voice raspy but strong. "Either you see or you don't." The bluntness caught her off guard. "And what do you see, Mr. Harrison?" He studied her for a long moment. Someone who stopped seeing? The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Before she could respond, he stood up with some difficulty, leaning heavily on a sleek black cane. "Same time next week?" he asked, though it didn't sound like a question that required an answer. After the class dispersed, Gloria approached with an envelope containing Maya's payment. "How did it go?" "I hope Mr. Harrison didn't give you too much trouble." "He's interesting," Maya replied, still unsettled by his comment. "What's his story?" Gloria's expression softened. "Leonard Harrison, former art professor at the university. Brilliant man, widowed 5 years ago. And now?" She hesitated. "He doesn't tell many people, but he's in hospice care. Pancreatic cancer. They give him maybe 3 months." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain outside. "He still comes to art class? Says it's the only thing that makes him feel alive anymore." Gloria squeezed Maya's arm. "You'll be back next week?" The question echoed Mr. Harrison's. Maya found herself nodding. On the bus ride home, Maya couldn't shake the image of Mr. Harrison, his straight posture, defiant gaze, and those words, someone who stopped seeing. The worst part was, he wasn't wrong. Somewhere between rejection letters and past due notices, Maya had stopped seeing the world as an artist. Her recent work was technically proficient but lacked any emotional truth. No wonder no one wanted to buy it. The following week brought another gray day and another art class. This time Maya arrived early, curious if Mr. Harrison would return. He did, 10 minutes before class, moving slowly but purposefully to the same corner spot. "Good afternoon, Mr. Harrison," Maya greeted him. He nodded in acknowledgement. "Brought your own canvas today, I see." Indeed, Maya had packed her own supplies, intending to paint alongside the class. "Thought I might join in rather than just instruct." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Good." The class progressed more smoothly than the first. Maya demonstrated watercolor techniques, moving around the room to offer guidance, but always finding her gaze drawn back to Mr. Harrison. He worked silently, intensely focused on his canvas. The lighthouse again, further developed. When she finally settled at her own easel, Maya found herself staring at a blank canvas, paralyzed by the same creative block that had plagued her for months. "Start with what you see, not what you think you should see." Mr. Harrison's voice carried across the room, though he hadn't looked up from his work. Maya glanced around, realizing he was speaking to her. Taking a deep breath, she began to paint. Not the planned still life, but the scene before her. An elderly man with wispy white hair and focused blue eyes, working at his canvas with trembling but determined hands. After class, Mr. Harrison lingered, examining Maya's unfinished portrait of him. "Not bad," he said, which somehow felt like high praise. "You're seeing again. But you're still afraid." "Afraid of what?" Maya asked. "Of what you might find if you really looked." He tapped his cane against the floor. "Paint me." Maya blinked. "I am painting you." "No," he shook his head. "Really paint me. Not just this hour in a community center. I'm dying, Miss Reeves. Paint that truth." The bluntness of his statement left her speechless. "I'll pay you," he continued. $500. The amount was enough to cover rent, at least temporarily, but money wasn't what made Maya nod in agreement. It was the challenge in those pale blue eyes, a challenge to see truly again. They arranged for Maya to visit his home the following day. As she left the community center, Gloria stopped her. "I saw you talking with Mr. Harrison. He doesn't connect with many people these days. He asked me to paint his portrait." Maya said. Gloria's eyes widened slightly. "That's unexpected, but good. He could use the company. And between us," she lowered her voice, "his family doesn't visit much. Too busy with their own lives." The next day, Maya found herself standing outside a modest but well-maintained craftsman home in a quiet neighborhood. The garden showed signs of previous care but current neglect, perennials struggling through untended soil. Mr. Harrison answered her knock, leaning heavily on his cane. "Punctual." "Good." The interior of the house felt like a time capsule, tasteful furniture from another era, walls lined with bookshelves, and most strikingly, art everywhere. Landscapes, portraits, abstract pieces, a curated collection that spoke of a lifetime of appreciation. "Your work?" Maya asked, gesturing to a particularly striking oil painting of a storm-tossed coastline. "Some. Others are by students who became colleagues. Friends." He settled carefully into an armchair by the window. "This is where I sit most days. The light is good until late afternoon." Maya set up her easel, studying him in the natural light. His face was a landscape of its own, deep lines mapping a long life, hollowed cheeks betraying his illness. But those eyes remained fierce and present. "Before we begin," he said, "I should tell you why I asked for this. My family will want photographs at the funeral. Those lie. Photographs capture surfaces. I want someone to see me as I am now, not who I was or what this disease is doing. Just me as I am in this moment." The raw honesty of his request made Maya's throat tighten. She nodded, unable to speak immediately. "I'll try," she finally managed. "Don't try? See? Then paint what you see." For 3 hours, Maya worked in silence, occasionally asking Mr. Harrison to adjust his position slightly. He sat patiently, sometimes looking out the window, sometimes watching her work. Eventually, he spoke. "Tell me about your art, Miss Reeves. The real art, not what you teach seniors." Maya's hand paused mid-stroke. I'm still finding my voice." At your age, I was teaching and exhibiting regularly. The comment stung. The market is different now. The market is always different. Art remains the same. Truth remains the same. He shifted slightly, wincing with discomfort. What's the last painting that made you proud? The question pierced through Maya's practiced defenses. When was the last time she'd felt genuine pride in her work? Before the rejections piled up, before she started second-guessing every brushstroke, trying to create what she thought galleries wanted. 2 years ago, she admitted, a series about my grandmother's hands. And what happened to that series? It didn't sell. My agent suggested I focus on more accessible subjects. Mr. Harrison made a dismissive sound. And you listened. I need to eat, Maya said, a defensive edge creeping into her voice. Van Gogh sold one painting in his lifetime. Died thinking he was a failure. Mr. Harrison's eyes locked with hers. Was he? Maya didn't answer, returning her attention to the canvas. They worked in silence until the light began to fade. Enough for today, Mr. Harrison said, his voice betraying fatigue. Same time tomorrow? Maya nodded, carefully packing her supplies. As she prepared to leave, she noticed a photograph on the mantel. A younger Mr. Harrison standing beside a petite woman with a brilliant smile. My wife Eleanor, he said, following her gaze. 47 years together. She's beautiful, Maya replied. She was a botanist, could name every plant in the Pacific Northwest. Said I saw the world through shape and color, while she saw it through systems and cycles. A distant smile softened his features. We were both right. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya returned daily to Mr. Harrison's home. The portrait progressed, as did their conversations. He spoke of his career, his marriage, his estranged relationship with his son who lived in Chicago. Maya found herself sharing more than she intended. Her struggles with creativity, her financial woes, her fear of having chosen the wrong path. There are no wrong paths, Mr. Harrison told her on a particularly rainy afternoon. Only paths not fully walked. As the portrait neared completion, Maya noticed Mr. Harrison's condition deteriorating. His breathing grew more labored, his periods of rest more frequent. Once she arrived to find a hospice nurse leaving. The nurse gave Maya a questioning look. She's the artist, Mr. Harrison explained from his chair. She stays. During their sessions, Maya learned about art from a man who had dedicated his life to it, not just creating, but teaching, appreciating, living it. He spoke of color theory with a passion that made the technical aspects feel spiritual. He criticized modern gallery culture while maintaining an unwavering belief in art's power to transform. The problem with most artists today, he said during what would be their final session together, is that they paint for everyone except themselves. Paint for yourself first, Ms. Reeves. The rest will follow. The portrait was nearly complete. Maya had captured him exactly as he'd requested, not glamorizing his illness, but not defining him by it either. In her painting, Leonard Harrison sat with dignity, his eyes containing both his approaching end and his defiant presence in the moment. It's finished, Maya said softly. He studied it in silence for a long moment. You've seen me, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Thank you. When Maya arrived the next day, the house was silent. A different hospice nurse met her at the door. He's been moved to inpatient care, she explained gently. His condition declined rapidly overnight. Maya stood on the porch, her arms filled with her painting supplies, suddenly unmoored. Can I visit him? The nurse provided the hospice center's address. He asked me to give you this if you came by. She handed Maya an envelope. Inside was a check for $500 and a note in shaky handwriting. For seeing me. The house key is under the blue pot. Take care of the lighthouse painting. L.H. Maya found the key and let herself in, feeling like an intruder despite the invitation. In Mr. Harrison's studio at the back of the house, she found the lighthouse painting, now completed. It was masterful, capturing both the solid presence of the structure and the ephemeral quality of light breaking through storm clouds. Beside it sat another canvas, a portrait of Maya that she hadn't known he was creating. In it, she stood at her easel, face intense with concentration, a streak of blue paint on her cheek. What struck her most was how he had painted her eyes, alive with purpose, seeing deeply. Maya carefully wrapped both paintings, along with her portrait of Mr. Harrison, and took them back to her apartment. 3 days later, she received a call from Gloria at the community center. Leonard passed last night, she said, her voice thick with emotion. He went peacefully. Maya sat heavily on her couch, staring at the 3 paintings propped against her wall. Did his family come? His son flew in yesterday afternoon. Just in time. There was a pause. Leonard arranged everything in advance. The memorial service is this Saturday. He requested that your portrait of him be displayed. The memorial service was small. Former colleagues, a few students, his son and daughter-in-law. Maya stood awkwardly at the back, her portrait of Leonard Harrison displayed on an easel near a modest arrangement of photographs. After the service, a tall man with Leonard's jawline approached her. "You're the artist?" "I'm James Harrison, Leonard's son." Maya nodded. "I'm sorry for your loss. Dad wrote to me about you." His eyes drifted to the portrait. "He said you were the first person in years who really saw him." James's voice caught. "I should have come sooner." "He spoke of you," Maya offered. "He was proud of you." James smiled sadly. "Stubborn old man. We were too similar, that was our problem." He gestured to the portrait. "This is remarkable. Would you consider selling it to me? I'd like to have it." "He already paid me for it," Maya replied. "It's yours." After the memorial, Maya returned to her routine, teaching at the community center, working on commissioned pieces that paid bills but didn't fulfill her. But something had shifted. Each night she found herself drawn to her easel, working on a new series, portraits of individuals facing crossroads in their lives, each captured with the same unflinching honesty she had brought to Leonard's portrait. 3 months later, Maya's phone rang with an unknown number. "Is this Maya Reeves?" a woman's crisp voice asked. "This is Catherine Dawson from the Westlake Gallery. I was at Leonard Harrison's memorial service. The portrait you painted of him has been circulating in certain art circles. It's generating significant interest." Maya's hand tightened around her phone. "The Westlake Gallery was one of Seattle's most prestigious. We're curating a show on contemporary portraiture, and I'd like to see more of your work." 1 week later, Maya stood in Catherine Dawson's sleek office, watching as the gallery owner examined her new series. "These are extraordinary," Catherine said, lingering over a portrait of an elderly woman learning to walk again after a stroke. "The emotional honesty is remarkable. You're not afraid to show vulnerability without exploiting it." Maya thought of Leonard's words. "Paint for yourself first." "I'd like to feature your work prominently in our spring exhibition," Catherine continued. "Specifically, I want to anchor the show with Leonard's portrait, if his son would loan it. There's something about it that captures mortality, dignity, defiance. It's a powerful statement." The exhibition opened on a rare sunny Seattle day in April. Maya stood in disbelief as attendees clustered around her work, as critics murmured appreciatively as red-souled dots appeared beside painting after painting. James Harrison approached, standing beside her as they both gazed at his father's portrait. "He would have loved this," James said. "Not the attention, but seeing you succeed." "I'm not sure I would have found my way without him," Maya admitted. "Dad had that effect on people. He challenged them to see themselves clearly." James smiled. "He left something for you, you know. In his will." Maya turned to him in surprise. "His art collection. He wanted you to have it, said you would understand its value beyond the monetary." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep seeing truth and painting it." That's all he would have wanted. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned, Catherine approached with a glass of champagne and news of multiple gallery inquiries about Maya's future work. "This is just the beginning," she said. "You found your voice at exactly the right time. The art world is hungry for authenticity." Maya excused herself, needing a moment alone. She stepped outside into the cool evening air, looking up at a sky where stars were just becoming visible. Somewhere in the distance, she imagined a lighthouse beam sweeping across dark waters, guiding ships safely to shore. "Thank you for seeing me," she whispered to the night sky, echoing Leonard's words to her. The next morning, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her apartment windows. Her phone was flooded with messages, congratulations, interview requests, commission inquiries. On her easel sat a blank canvas, no longer intimidating but full of possibility. She thought of Leonard Harrison sitting in his chair by the window, facing death yet fully present in life. She thought of how he had seen her, not just as she was but as she could be. Maya picked up her brush, ready to see the world anew and to paint what she saw, trusting that authenticity would guide her way. Like a lighthouse on a storm-swept shore, Leonard's final lesson illuminated her path forward. To create from truth, to see deeply, and to capture the dignity in every human moment, beautiful or painful, beginnings or endings. And in that simple act of seeing truly, she had found not just her artistic voice, but her way home to herself.